How's it going? We're just here hanging out with, the dog Kia, one of the many dogs that live here. Kia is a Hovevort.
Yep.
And that is German for dangerous. She seems nice right now, but when you see her wolf out, like I saw her dig a hole last summer in the woods, and it was like she was down a foot in a few seconds.
Oh yeah.
And I could imagine her digging through your guts like that, like I mean, boomer egging her on.
You know when she's doing that, she's eating everything she comes across, right?
Anyways, we're here to talk to you again today. The topic is something that is very close to me for a lot of different reasons. I have been a software engineer for about 2 decades. And in that time, I've worked in industries that were open, and those industries tended to operate efficiently. Okay? So when people talk about efficient markets, you could argue that open markets, transparent markets, they're going to be the most efficient. Okay?
Sure.
And so in economic terms and business terms, it's just plain smart. And then I worked in parts of software that were closed, and healthcare is filled with that shit. And other fields are just like that. And in those areas, you'd have to deal with ridiculous stuff. For example, there's data in healthcare you got to pay for in order to process a bill. You'd think processing a bill, all the data you need would be available. No, procedure codes in healthcare are owned by the AMA. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
And you basically have to pay people to use procedure codes to get the definitions. And this is so absurd because these are the codes that strangle creativity in healthcare amongst doctors. And believe it or not, this topic will circle back to that. We're going to talk about right to repair.
Okay, now I know of Louis Rossmann and his work in the right to repair world. Mainly he's battling, Apple and their nonsense that they try to pull on their phone.
A lot of crap. And again, getting back to efficient markets, the fact that you cannot fix your phone really. They don't want you to jailbreak it. They don't really want you to own it. John Deere, I believe, is recently moved to a model, and I don't think it's recent, I think it's like the last decade or so, where you buy a fucking John Deere tractor, but you don't have a right to fix it.
No, you have to call the dealer. Basically, that's what they want. They want the dealer out there. They want it's like the McDonald's ice cream machine.
Helplessness, up and down. Right to repair is literally the opposite of learned helplessness. Okay? Learned helplessness is where they say, you don't know what's in Tylenol, so shove it down your throat. You don't know what's in the vaccines, you better take it. Some smart person points towards a bridge that you know will collapse, but says it's fine, drive your truck over it. Okay? Learned helplessness is one of the things that Justin and I are at odds with. That's one of the reasons why we formed this business, to fight against it. I was going to talk to him just now, prior to this video, about the following. We are right now in what I would call the homebrew phase of the RAD terminal, which means that anybody can do it. Anybody. Okay? I put enough breadcrumbs on my blog, and we've had enough videos where if you put all the pieces together, you could build your own abstraction of JS8, you could build your own RAD terminal. So if you think this is about us wanting to do what Apple and Microsoft and Google and the AMA and a bunch of other fuckheads want to do, no, it's kind of the opposite. Like I said, Apple wants to sell you learned helplessness. We want to sell you the ability to be competent and to take on your life. So right now we're in the homebrew phase, and I'm gonna pass off to you just in a second. But we're moving towards something where we want to build a complete system, which means that, for example, right now in the homebrew phase, you take some CB radio and you match it with some computer, and that's fine. But what we want to do is build an all-in-one, something like a Pelican case type setup.
Yeah, military grade. Think of like the stuff that these guys are using in action films.
Ideally, something you could drop off the roof of a 1 or 2 story building.
Yeah, fall off a moving pickup truck.
And your RAD terminal will be fine. Maybe even take a shot. Might not work, but it will be that shield that protects you. But right now we're in homebrew, but where we're going is what we just talked about. And I was gonna say, you know what, Justin? We need to do the opposite. We need to do right to repair as a matter of policy.
Yes.
Which means that every part of our RAD terminal, even when we build one that is going to be not homebrew, but a complete integrated system, we are going to make the components swappable. We're not going to leave you in the lurch. Oh, I bought version 1. You know what? The radio unit will be swappable. You know what's even better? We're going to design a radio with swappable components, okay? And yeah, we will end up using more space to approach this from a Lego perspective. But we're going to try to make this so easy to work with that you're never going to pick up the phone and say, you know, motherfuckers, we don't have a triple hex digi-screw that comes up the butthole and out your nose, and I can't fix this. We'll never do that to you.
It will be the opposite. They'll be like, wow, they sure did make this easy.
Yeah. I mean, it's so ridiculous. You know, I grew up, my dad was kind of out of sync as far as generations. You know, theoretically, I should have had a boomer parent, but I had what they call the greatest generation parent. My dad grew up during the Great Depression. Dad, we bookended that, didn't we? We bookended that, didn't we? He grew up during the Great Depression. He had a different set of values. He truly believed in a free country. I think he wanted to live in that. And you know what? I grew up in Washington State back in the 70s, and it took a decade or so for the people from California, the first wave, to destroy it. It was mostly a place where people respected each other's freedom and whatnot. My dad worked on his equipment. He had Garrett skidders, he had, you know, big Caterpillar. He worked on his equipment. If he came across a problem he couldn't solve, he called a mechanic. But the point is, he felt empowered to fix his equipment. It angers and saddens me that people build technology companies in such a way that they prevent people from fixing something you buy. And it saddens me also because if you care about the environment, and this is critical, right to repair is how we stop turning the ocean to a fucking toilet bowl. Right to repair is how a lot of poor people end up getting access to telecommunications because we don't just throw shit away. And right to repair, frankly, if you like Linux, and I love Linux, we love Linux here, right to repair and Linux and open source, they go hand in hand. And frankly, if you're out there doing crypto, whatever, but if you want your crypto network to function, you should be talking to us.
You better have a solid network that you control.
Yeah, and that doesn't suffer from the, what if the electricity goes out? You know what? Talk to us. If crypto is even remotely legit, let's pretend for a second that crypto's legit. I've read the Satoshi paper. I wrote my own coin paper back in 2017. It's on my blog, not that you'd read it. But the point is, I've been through it. I've looked at the source code of Ether. I've experimented with contracts. I'm not a noob. I understand the math and how it works. If crypto is legit and it's not some deep state banker scam to basically burn up currency and once again create a kind of learned helplessness, broken windows everywhere with crypto. You know, you read of, anyways, I don't want to go there, but if you're out there and you're a crypto fucking billionaire or whatever, you should give us a fucking call because I want to create a truly private, truly functional, transactional system that is working in our system because that would be awesome and it would be truly decentralized. If you're actually interested in crypto, you should give me a fucking call. You should give us some money. Because what we'll give you is the potential for a transactional network that they can't fucking shut down. They'll shut down SWIFT. It's like, oh, Russia invaded Ukraine. Let's shut down SWIFT. How about shutting us down? Because if we allow people to fix their own shit, if we allow people to have control of their own lives, it means that network can't be stopped. And frankly, most of the technology fuckers out there, even in the libertarian and anarchist world, are very much learned helplessness people. It's sad. It is so fucking sad. I mean, during the monkey herpes COVID epidemic, we learned about which people basically would go on the train. They wouldn't ask questions. They might say, are you serving drinks before somebody hits them in the head with a rifle? And I just bloviated a lot, but I needed to get that out. You know, it's just, my dad grew up in an era where you could fix things. The fact that they're doing this, it's not, you know, I'm not going to say it's un-American, it's inhuman. It is harmful to the whole community, to children growing up. Okay, when I was growing up, there was a place called Radio Shack. You remember that place?
Yeah.
And believe it or not, even though I ended up going down some crooked paths, and I don't want to go into it, I eventually got back to technology and engineering. But if there was a seed crystal in my head, one of them was this radio kit. You could get there, a toy. But it was a toy in the sense that it could actually broadcast Morse code. You could put up an antenna and you could actually send out Morse code, and someone with an AM radio could pick it up, okay? And you learned about radios and you learned about electronics. You would go to Radio Shack and they would have every capacitor you would need, every transistor you would need, everything you can think of. And then you had the personal computer revolution. And I gotta say, the first step along the road of learned helplessness started with the PCs. I think they're cool, I think they're awesome. But the problem is the people who were in charge of them were not awesome. And they sent us down a road of control. To the point now they give you a rectangle that glows, they can shut it off at any time, you're plugged into a network they have complete control of because, by the way, the internet started with DARPANET. Yeah, you're fucked. And I don't know, are we doing okay on time? Because I'm thinking,
time, no issue.
I mean, I get angry, okay?
This project is revealing a lot of ugly truths about the world, Dan. About the internet, about motives for building technology, the way that it's basically designed to corral us, keep us in a box. And when you approach telecommunications from a freedom point of view, like I said, you really see how ugly this world was built. Like, it's disgusting.
Sad. It's like the crypto people. They'll make it seem like if you're not crypto, you don't believe in freedom. But it's literally the fucking opposite. The crypto people are plugged into a learned helplessness economy. Ignore whether or not there are cryptos that function correctly, transactionally. I'll leave that for another podcast. The fact is they're plugged into a deep state CPU manufacturing system. They're plugged into a deep state computer certified manufacturing system. No computers get built without the deep state having some fingerprint on it. And we are at the point now, with respect to CPU power, that you could, in hacking terms, in Trojan horse terms, park a fucking battleship of hacks on a fucking CPU, and the only thing you might notice is power drain differentials and stuff like that. And if they're smart, I know government's not that smart, but if you're smart, you don't really send out that much information at a time. It's like we were talking about not overclocking radios, not overworking radios. We don't want to burn out radios. That's why we're going to manage our data flows so that your CB radio in the homebrew stage doesn't have an issue.
Well,
but we're also talking about the idea of actually cycling through certain components that would heat up, and so that you're actually letting components cool down, like a Gatling
reducing
gun,
or improving the duty cycle of the component overall,
almost
just by adding
like a Gatling gun,
exactly like a Gatling
for
gun.
Transmission.
Yes,
so that the barrels have a chance to cool. I know that's not
that's a great analogy, Dan.
Yeah, but anyways, and I don't know where exactly I was going with the whole thing about not overworking the radios, but God, this issue makes me angry.
Okay, so here's the deal. We need your money. We have a very grand vision, and this is a vision to change humanity, change the course of humanity for the better.
Yeah.
From this tyrannical path that we've been on to a direct offshoot in a different direction to human liberation.
And we're not selling you something we created. It's called freedom. It was always there. Nobody created it. You didn't have to have a contract saying you get to be free if you do certain things. You were born free.
Amen. All right.